the interval in which effects form before naming arrives. The recognition delay model describes what happens when something begins affecting a system before it can be properly named. A system may already be in contact with a phenomenon, already reacting to it, already being altered by it, while still lacking the language needed to identify what it is dealing with. This is recognition delay. It is not just slowness, it is a structural gap between exposure and legibility. Research. Context recognition is often imagined as immediate. Something appears, it is noticed, it is understood. But many systems do not work this way. They encounter signs before categories are available. They register disturbance before they can identify the source. They begin responding before they can say what has entered the field. The issue then is not that understanding eventually arrives, it is that naming arrives after consequences have already begun to organize the field. Core concept. Recognition delay refers to the interval between first contact and structurally adequate naming. Within this interval, a system may experience repeated exposure without correct naming, effects without stable explanation, symptoms without source recognition, responses without accurate classification, accumulation without interpretive closure. This interval is not empty time, it is active time. It is the period in which a system remains exposed to what it has not yet properly named. Structural mechanism. Recognition delay begins when contact happens before a reliable naming structure is available. The field changes, reactions begin, consequences start to accumulate, but recognition lags behind. By the time a name becomes possible, the system is no longer in the condition in which first contact occurred. The field has already been reorganized by exposure without adequate naming. This is why delay matters. A name that arrives late does not enter a neutral field. It enters a field that has already moved. Key observations. Several patterns recur in this condition. Systems often register disturbance before identifying cause. Naming delay allows consequences to sediment before intervention begins. By the time recognition stabilizes, the field is no longer in its initial state. Delay recognition shifts response from prevention to reclassification. What arrives late as knowledge must enter an already altered environment. Recognition delay matters not because understanding fails forever, but because it arrives too late to preserve first conditions. Structural consequence recognition delay reframes what delay means. The issue is not passive waiting, it is active formation without adequate naming. The system does not remain unchanged while recognition is incomplete. It continues to be shaped by what it cannot yet identify. By the time the name arrives, the field has already begun to move. Naming declaration. The recognition delay model originates within the meta-writing Ecology as a structural model describing the interval between contact and adequate recognition. It is not derived from cognitive latency theory, delay analysis, crisis communication models, or diagnostic psychology. Its terminology and logic arise from ecological analysis of systems in which consequences begin forming before interpretation has stabilized enough to identify what is taking place. In this model, delay does not refer merely to slowness, it refers to a structural gap between exposure and legibility. The model does not ask why recognition was imperfect in a moral sense. It asks what kinds of effects become possible during the interval in which naming has not yet caught up.